Have you ever stopped yourself from saying what you really think? Not because you wanted to lie, but you didn't want to make other people uncomfortable. You started thinking that their comfort was more important than yours. So we do that, don't we? Because we somehow think that it's okay for me to be uncomfortable. Let me help other people be comfortable so that they won't take offense at me or something very similar. In case we don't know each other, my name is Katrina Horn and I'm a self coach and I help my clients with their self worth. So let's dive into this a little bit further. Let me give you a few examples of what it could look like if you don't take up the space you want to, or if you're trying to fit in or people please your way into people esteeming you, into getting your self value from the outside, what we call external validation, instead of sourcing it from the inside, internal validation. So let's imagine you're sitting at a meeting at work and somebody else really takes credit for your hard work. And you don't say anything, you just sort of swallow it because you don't want to seem confrontational. Or maybe something even simpler, like somebody suggests you go somewhere for dinner and you don't really fancy that, but you just say, oh, okay, no, it doesn't matter. I like everything. I'm good. Or when people ask you, or like, let's say a friend did something that really hurt you, and then when they ask you about it, how do you feel about this? You say, oh, don't worry, it's fine, right? And it really isn't. And what you could be saying instead is, do you know what? What you did really hurt me. And as I value our friendship, I wanted to be really honest with you. So it's about us feeling into what is true for us, being willing to perhaps not be confrontational, but let's not shrink either. Let's think about other people's comfort as being of equal value to our comfort, but our first duty is to our own comfort, because as I like to say, when we are at our best, we are at our best, and that's a benefit, yeah, that's a benefit to everybody involved. So I know exactly what I'm talking about because I used to really make myself extremely small. I sort of wanted people to notice me, but then I sort of didn't. So I used to be on stage, I used to be a musician playing the harp on stage, and I sort of kind of wanted people to like what I did, because if they liked what I played, well, then I could feel good about it, I thought. But I never did, even when they did like what I played, because my my focus when I was playing wasn't on me pouring out my heart, me interpreting some music to delight other people. Of course, that happened sometimes, but really my focus was on doing it right. So that meant that the composer's intention was much more important than my feelings and my interpretation. So it was like the composer did the right version, and I had to interpret that version right, if that makes sense. So I don't know, if you're not in music, maybe this makes no sense, but it's sort of choosing between what is expected and what is me. And then sourcing my value from how well I could live up to what was expected, instead of sourcing my value from, well, what I really was. So that is really what I wanted you to think about, sort of dive into. Where is it that you could be shrinking yourself, making other people more important than you? And for me, it came from the sense that I was somehow stronger than other people, so I could take it. So, okay, let other people decide what we are going to do, what we are going to eat, or how we were going to have Christmas, or whatever it was, because I could take anything, right? That was somehow easier for me just to say, okay, let me take it, let me take it, let me take it, because the alternative was to make other people uncomfortable. The alternative was, I thought, to make a fuss. And who likes somebody who makes a fuss? So to me, it's not like either or, it's feeling into each situation and deciding for yourself really what feels true to me. And can I just say that it's not always either or to me, it's very rarely either or. It's much more about that grey zone in between. We do everything I desire or we do everything that other people desire. Let's find out if there is a compromise. Sometimes there isn't, but sometimes there is. And then exploring what that compromise could look like. And of course, sometimes some things are not very important. Like to me, choosing a restaurant is not always very important. It can sometimes be, and there can, of course, be a restaurant that I really don't fancy, in which case I will say so. But it's not really that important to me. The food is not that important. So I'm sometimes willing to compromise if somebody else has got a very strong desire. So really, I would like to invite you to think about, well, really, what are my priorities? And are there some areas of my life where I'm no longer willing to compromise? So we can, of course, do that from a very sort of standoffish angle, or like a very a place where we feel we have to be very forceful and insistent. But we can also just do it from love and respect, and perhaps use some of the love and respect that we have for other people, well, turn it towards ourselves so that we get to benefit from all that love and respect. And when you think about it, if you don't really extend the same love and respect to yourself that you do to other people, well, where will that take you, really? Where will that take you? And what do you think other people could be thinking if they believe that, oh, you don't matter and they matter? I mean, that just doesn't fit anywhere, does it? I think it's much more beneficial to everybody involved if we are honest, of course, in a respectful and loving way. So even when we don't agree, maybe there is a way of saying, oh, excuse me, but this is not really how I see it, or this is not really what I want. Here is how I would ideally like it. Is there any of that you can get on board with? So of just being really, really honest. And to me, I was able to be really, really honest when I was sort of willing to risk the relationship. When I thought, well, if they can't be on board with some of my desires and what's important to me, then really I don't want to cultivate a friendship or a relationship with them, do I? I really don't. I want the kind of relationships where there's a mutual respect and where we can listen to each other. And of course, not always be in agreement. And that's okay, isn't it? Because, I mean, who could you always be in agreement with? Of course you're not. And that's okay. Let's just not make it mean anything. Let's not make it mean that I'm right and you're wrong, or the opposite, or whatever. Like, let's really dive in to the conversation from a place of vulnerability. And being vulnerable to me is like showing people who I am and allowing them to judge me for it. I think that's really the baseline, isn't it? That sometimes we jump into all this people pleasing and living up to expectations and fitting in from a desire that really, well, we just want to be loved. We want to be accepted, or whatever it is for us. But if we could just sort of be willing to, well, let me be loved at least for who I really am, so that the people that do surround me, like people I do care about, they do care about who I really am and not some fake version. And perhaps the word fake triggers you. You can call it inauthentic or whatever. I like to think about fake and genuine, because for me, I immediately know in which camp I am. Am I being genuine or am I being fake? Choose your words. Authentic, inauthentic, true, Um, Not so true. I don't know what speaks to you, but maybe this week you could start noticing, well, where am I shrinking myself to fit in with other people's comfort or what I imagine to be their comfort? Where am I shrinking? Where am I not really saying what's on my mind and what really matters to me? Where am I stopping myself from speaking my mind? And as long as you just think about it to create awareness, just remember it doesn't create any consequences. So it's really, really safe. It's completely safe. You can actually start bringing in awareness of it without going out into the real world and start changing a lot of things. Because before you do that, let's be really clear, you have to be willing to risk some relationships if you want to start being more yourself, being more authentic, or being more you. You have to be willing to consider the possibility that perhaps people won't like it so much because you're changing. And they might need either time to adapt or they might reject that version of you completely. And I think that's really the difficult parts of life that we have to go through. If you could do it without judging them and without judging yourself, that would be perfect. Like if you could just stay with the awareness and not go into a lot of heavy judgment about how they should react or how they should feel about you now. Really, if you could drop that and just sort of notice, I'm not sure they like me like this. So before you start taking any action out in the real world, just feel into it. And how would you feel actually if some of the people that you esteem no longer were so fond of you? Is that something you can live with? And if you can't live with it, don't start doing anything to change, right? Just keep creating the awareness. So let me know what comes up for you. Just want to let you know that real kindness includes you. Like real love doesn't set you apart as somebody that shouldn't be considered as much as other people. Love and kindness and generosity includes everybody, I believe. So please don't start making yourself smaller, shrinking, or thinking, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll get to that later. Like, think about it first. And if you feel empowered to, please go and practice out in the real world, being aware of the consequences, right? Creating that psychological safety for yourself before you go out and take irreversible action. Just think or keep reminding yourself that it's actually worth it in the long run. So you might get a little bit upset sort of short term, but really when you think about it long term, how would your life be different if you were always being much more yourself and saying what was on your mind, reacting without a filter to other people, reacting without a filter to the world, and just sort of trusting yourself to be okay as you are. I think, well, to me, it changed everything. It made me even more fearless and it made me feel so much better on the inside, even if it did sort of frighten a few people away. And I still continue to upset people, right? Not because I attack them personally, but it's just that my opinions might not tally with everybody else's. And to me, that is okay. But to other people, they could find that really offensive. But hey, we live and learn. And as long as I'm not very important to them, then that's okay. But really, when you think about it, if you're willing to stay in the conversation of it, and if you're willing to work on the relationship, I wouldn't want to have any kind of relationship where I couldn't really be me. Would you? I don't think you would. So let me know in the comments below what comes up for you. Are you shrinking yourself sometimes? You could give me a concrete example of when you did that, when you avoided saying what you really thought, or where you went along with something that you weren't really wanting to do, like staying later at a party and not telling people you were tired and wanted to go home, or something like that. Really small things or really big ones. What are they? And I'm sure we all do it at times. It's not about being perfect, it's about finding a place where you feel that you can be fully you without all the filters and without the self judgment. So let me know in the comments below. If you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I can't think why you wouldn't want to be there, because I put out these videos, I put out workshops, I upload onto YouTube. I would love for you to come along. So please subscribe so that at least you'll be informed when I do lives, when I do workshops. It would be so good to have you come along. Talk to you later. Bye for now.